Hello, everyone. I hope you are having an amazing day. Good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it may be. Today, we're going to be looking at another theme in unknown literatures. I'm very excited about this topic because it is a beautiful topic. It is fascinating, and I hope that a lot of modern students today are fascinating with this fabric of Western storytelling as well. It is chivalric romances. Let's get into the tales of knights and honors and courtly love and adventure that is divine medieval literature. Yeah, and so, basically, chivalric romances are a timeless archetype that still is present in fantasy novels today and films with grand quests and sword fights with hero narratives and all the feudal society, knightly virtue, and human imperfection that it deals with. Today, we're going to be looking a bit into chivalric romances and their key characteristics and how it continues to impact modern literature today. Yeah, so what are chivalric romances? Chivalric romances are essentially narratives that focus on knights, heroic quests, and the ideals of chivalry. Basically, a medieval code that emphasizes bravery, honor, loyalty, these different ideas. This originated in the 12th century, so during the medieval ages, originating from oral storytelling traditions before it was written down. It typically features the characters of a noble knight. This is a hero that is often flawed but also bound by duty and love. Like the Three Musketeers, for example, and a perilous quest that they must go through, a mission to prove honor, rescue the innocent, or gain wisdom, or often all three as well. We also have a lot of superficial elements, supernatural elements as well, magical beings, enchanted objects, divine interventions that save them, and obviously courtly love or romantic devotions, often forbidden or idealized, that push them into the quests. Yeah, so at its very core, the chivalric romances were a moral tale that teach the lessons of virtue, sacrifice, and human imperfection to a lot of people at the time. Today we're going to be looking at, first of all, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight and Amadis de Gaula. So Sir Gawain and the Green Knight was composed in the 14th century, and it is one of the greatest Middle English chivalric romances ever written. It tells the story of Sir Gawain, and he is a knight of King Arthur's Round Table who accepts a deadly challenge from the mysterious figure of the Green Knight. This tale is so important because not only is it one of the oldest chivalric novels and medieval age novels, but it tells Gawain's quests in kind of a moral test. It explores honor and temptation. It also blends Christian and pagan imagery as well. The Green Knight symbolizes nature, faith, and rebirth. We also have chivalric codes that are challenged here. There is a poem that questions whether a knight can truly uphold their ideals. And so some of the symbolisms in there would be, again, the Green Knight's challenge that became a metaphor for the trials of life that tested courage and integrity, loyalty, and we also have the green girdle that represents human weakness and the difficulty of having and maintaining absolute virtue. And we also have the beheading game that symbolizes the inevitability of fate as a price of honor. And a key quote from here is, "Why should I shy away? If fate is kind or cruel, man still must try." This line embodies the essence of chivalric romances, the ideas that knights, and really all people in general, must face their destinies bravely and undauntedly, even when they are confronted with uncertainty. And so, again, it's a trial where success is not measured by perfection, because rarely does a knight from the start know exactly who to fight, how to fight, and are able to win, but they continue to learn and grow until in the end they triumph and give you a final answer to the question of loyalty. Yeah, and so these lines continue to embody the essence of chivalric romances, and yeah, this book laid the background for other foundational romances. One of that was and let's look at one of that was greatly influenced by this Spanish literature, Amadis de Gaula. So Amadís de Gaula is a Spanish chivalric romance. It is one of the most influential medieval knightly tales. It follows the character of Amadís, who is a noble knight again, who embarks on a quest for honor, for adventure, and for love. Again, Amadís is shown as a perfect knight that is the embodiment of chivalric virtue. He falls in love with his lady Oriana, and that becomes central to his journey. We also have magical elements like enchanted islands. We have sorcerers. We also have mystical being that adds a fantastical dimension to these ideas. And this novel is set the stage for a lot of the Spanish romances that we see today. Again, the virtues of loyalty, devotion, and martial prowess. And in a lot of ways, we can kind of guess that medieval literature focused on knightly tales so much because it wanted to emphasize the need for martial readiness in the face of foreign foes, because especially in Europe there was just a constant threat of forces coming in from any direction. They always needed to value devotion and loyalty and fighting for something bigger than themselves in order to have soldiers that are willing to fight. And these kind of mindsets as a society is really reflected on European chivalric literature. A key quote from Amadís de Gaula is, "In love there is no fear, nor can there be, for perfect love casts out fear." This again highlights how courtly love was idealized. It was like, oh, if you really fall in love, you become pure, you become fearless, and you become transformative. You're able to push yourself like the knights to greater acts of heroism. And while this is true to a degree, it is not that true love really allows you to break beyond human limits, right? And so medieval knighthood, a lot of these literature were very idealistic, very much mystical in a way. And so the impacts of a book like this was so great that Cervantes later parodied chivalric romances in his legendary work of Don Quixote, that becomes a critique of the unrealistic portrayals of knighthood. Yeah, let's look into a bit about Garcia Rodriguez de Montalvo. He is one of the Spanish authors of the 15th century, adopted and edited earlier versions of Amadís de Gaula. He not only revitalized chivalric romances, but laid again the groundwork for very famous novels that we see like Don Quixote. Yeah, so chivalric romances really shape the way we deal with the ideas of honor, loyalty, and courtly love. Obviously, these values continue to change even in the 18th century, I believe. These were parodied as being too idealistic. But yeah, chivalric romances just aren't just stories. They're a way that we can look into medieval culture, their ethics, and their literature, essentially. These literature, even during the medieval society, defined knightly behavior, and it really influenced how real knights were expected to act in society. It inspired medieval art and music as well. There were tournaments and ballads that celebrated knightly deeds as well as poetry. In the literary world, we also have lasting archetypes that were created by these works, like the heroic knight, the noble quest, and the tragic love story that became a literary staple. And so these archetypes and these influences and symbolization continue to persist in modern storytelling today and in popular culture today. Just again, the impacts on literature. This had an enduring impact for later literary movements as well. It influenced The Fairy Queen, written by Edmund Spenser's epic that redefined knightly virtues in the Renaissance literature. We also have Lord Tennyson's Idealists of the King, that revived King Arthur's legends, and we have fantasy fictions that focused on medieval quests by Tolkien's Lewis and other modern fantasy authors. And so these quests continue to show us the different moral dilemmas and a hero's journey that are presented in modern society as well. The chivalric romances continue to shape modern fantasy literature in a lot of ways. Yeah, and in contemporary media, it continues to thrive. In literature, it has appeared in The Lord of the Rings, for example. It echoes the chivalric quests, honor and sacrifice. The quest that they go in search of the ring is in sense driven by a loyal need and a devotion to the people around them and their lives even. We also have George R. R. Martin's Game of Thrones that show the flaws and politics of knighthood. And we also have movies famous like Excalibur in 1981, that is a visually very stunning retelling of the Arthurian legend. We also have The Witcher, started in 2019, that features knight-like heroes with honor and romance. And so these stories and new adaptations continue to reinterpret chivalric ideals for modern audiences. It continues to prove an enduring power, and I just don't think it's gonna stop. It's like these fantasy tales of heroes and knights is something fascinating to all people, regardless of whether we actually live in a state, live in a era with knights at all. Yeah, so we looked a bit into chivalric romances from Sarah Gawain to modern fantasies. Chivalric romances continue to inspire the way that we shape heroic storytelling. Um, yeah, and they endure because they celebrate heroism and moral integrity, because they explore very relatable themes of love and honor and trials of life, because they transport audiences to a world of magic, adventure, and virtue, and because this even after the age of knights is long past, it continues to show us the ideals and dramatic narratives of chivalric romances and continue to captivate generations. Thank you so much for watching this video. Chivalric romances is really one of my favorite things to talk about, and it was such an honor to be able to talk about this with you guys. Yeah, it has continued to shape literature today, and I am very much excited to share with you any books that you guys would be interesting, that talk about courtly love and knighthood, that are written in the 21st century as well. This is kind of an introductory idea again, then that hopefully gave you a deeper understanding and appreciation for these kind of literature. It has rich storytelling, rich history as well, and lasting influence today, and so it's definitely worth knowing about. Thank you so much for sharing with, being able to talk about this, for sharing this experience with me, and I hope that you'll continue to look into these ideas, learn yourselves, and continue to cultivate your love for literature, your love for chivalric romances, your love for different themes that are expressed. Thank you so much, and have an amazing day. Bye.